Hi everyone, welcome back to yet another season of LEC, and with that, inside Fnatic's brush. I am still your host, Matt Scott, for now, what I believe is the fourth season of Inside Fnatic's brush. Still kicking, still going strong. That's thanks to you guys, which I appreciate your support and the fact that on Twitter we've just hit 1,000 followers. For those who have not seen the announcement, thank you very much, guys. It means a lot to me that you've been following me after all this time. So lovely, lovely stuff here to look forward to as we. Oh, just give me a quick second. There we go. As we look into 2024. So, guys, let's jump right into it. A lot of stuff has been happening in the 2024. Oh, I should say 2023 off season for the 24 season. Fnatic's brush is back. It is back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Have a seat. I'm going to take you guys through everything that happened in new season, new format, new teams, new players. We'll of course have a chat about Fnatic. We'll dig a little bit into their world's performance and their new player, Jun or Juan for the Spanish community, obviously. Give you guys a bit of background why he's the new guy to look out for and the reason he's an actually interesting pick for Fnatic for many different reasons. Look at predictions and announcements. I've not necessarily done a presentation. I'll do a verbal announcement for you guys who will be the first one to know. Then I'll do an official post on the Twitter account. But it'll be interesting for you guys. It's to celebrate the new season, to celebrate the 1,000 followers. Just wanted to mark the occasion. So, without any further ado, let's move into the new season by looking at the moves. So, before we start talking about the new team, there'll be a new format. If you haven't seen it, go to the LEC YouTube account, have a look there, and you'll have all the details. Basically, what they've done, in layman's term, they've kept the format more or less with winter. So we still have the free splits: winter, spring, and summer. We still have the LEC finals. So still 4 trophies for the EMEA season. There's just a bit more separation between, or more or less depending on the length between splits and the LEC finals. What they've done, however, for the format in itself, is that they've removed group stage and playoffs. They've basically fused them together to create only playoffs, but they've basically kept the principle of groups and playoffs in the sense that there will be best of threes going into best of fives, but it's all in like one stretch, so there's no 2 different formats or separated elements in the same split. There's the point distribution depending on the standing has been changed as well, with spring split having a bit more impact, but also removing points for the bottom 2. So now it becomes much more difficult if you don't make it into the top 8 to qualify in the later stages of the season. If you have a better ranking, you'd have to have a very strong ranking in the future. That's one element. The other element is everything that has to do with qualifying with MSI. So winners of winter and spring go into MSI respectively as a 2nd and 1st seed. And then to the, I believe it's the top 3 of summer split going to LEC finals, and the last spot is given to the team with the most points. So there's more opportunities now to qualify directly to the LEC finals, and um, also if there are repeat winners for multiple splits, it will come down more to the points. So that's in the broad terms. I hope I haven't missed anything. As it comes for the league in itself, most of you will have known that there have been two main changes. The first one has been Astralis replaced by Carmine Corp. That has been a story that's been years and years in the making, not only on the side of Astralis, who for the past 2-3 seasons has been working to get rid of, or I should say sell their spot at a hefty price, and there's been contingencies on who would be able to afford it, who would be the right candidate. Already last year, Carmine Corp was in the race, but I believe there was an issue with the structure of the funding. Carmine Corp didn't want to give a part of their, I'd say, company to Astralis. In the end, it somewhat happened like this, where Astralis holds, I believe, roughly a third of the structure that combines Astralis and Carmine Corp. It's a lot of corporate and financial arrangements. But in any case, Carmine Corp has finally made its stand in the LEC and will now participate not only in the LFL where they've kept their academy team, but also in the main league. XL, on the other hand, very surprisingly, has fused with Giants, who Giants were one of the I don't know if I should say historical teams in the EU LCS, sorry, back in the time, and were pretty vocal on not making a franchise back in 2019. So they've finally managed to make it back, merge with XL to create a new team called Giant X. Now, I understand that they want to have a name that resonates with both sides of the organization. However, with Giant X, you're putting yourself at a risk of calling yourself Giant XD. That's a meme. So we'll see what happens, but I can already see Twitch chat spamming Giant XD if Giant X were to lose, not perform, or make some funny plays. I'll say that as much. So those are the big changes when it comes to the teams. Now we look a bit more in depth here at at the organization. That was not supposed to happen like this. We'll do it like that. Much better. Where we'll have a little overview of the changes that the teams have done in the off season. So the first two teams have made little changes. Fnatic and G2 Esports. G2 Esports has kept the same group of 5 players. They've changed a little bit in their coaching. Notably, they've brought back Duff. I believe Duff was his name, who was formerly of G2, went to XL. Was it no? No, Grabs. Was it? No, it's not XL. He went. Was it BDS? I believe BDS he went to with Grabs. I believe that was it, right? So he's back in G2. Fnatic have changed their support with Jun. We'll talk about that a bit later. Some of the big changes obviously have been Mad Lions, who's now Mad Lions Koi. So that's something I could have. Actually, I should have added that onto the list. Is that basically Mad Lions and Koi and Rogue have split their partnership. So now Rogue is the brand that was under Infinite Reality, which was with Koi at the time. And instead, Koi has partnered with Mad Lions. Mad Lions is basically in a trifecta of partnerships. They are with Koi, and they are with Movistar. So depending on which team you're looking at, it's either Mad Lions Movistar or Mad Lions Koi, and I don't know if there's Koi Movistar. It's a mess. I don't know how they're managing this, but this is how it works. And with that change, Mad Lions has gone full Spanish. You know, like we've spoken about La Formula with Fnatic. Mad Lions is full Spanish. It's back from Frescoe, but I believe that Frescoe previously was on a Spanish team. I'd have to check that very quickly. But what it was and what's been said is that Elyoya had a specific idea on who he wanted on his team, and obviously a lot of the previous players who were on Movistar and Mad Lions, obviously the fusion was being made, have come on to his organization. So Frescoe, who was one of them, I believe Supa as well was on that organization, if I'm not mistaken. And Merwin was with he was with another Spanish org, but I can't remember which one was the latest one he was on with. I'll check very quickly here. Heretics, that was the one. There we go. So what you can say about this is that there's been a lot of talk about Supa, Alvaro, and Merwin about their potential. You're still looking at a fairly strong rookie team, and when I mean strong rookie team, and in the sense that there's a lot of rookies in there. Now, you could put forward the point that these people have played together previously, especially the mid to bot side. There's this Spanish connection that can work as well. There's still a lot of guys that are making the first step into the LEC stage, and Elyoya is probably gonna be the one who's gonna captain them into the stage. Carmine Corp's coming in surprisingly without Syncroft has been very good for them in the LFL and in their last season in the LFL. Instead, have opted for Bo, Upset, and Targamas as their new guys, and Yamato in as their coach. So a lot of big names. It goes a little bit all over the place, but it will be interesting to see how they work together. Apparently, they're doing not too bad in scrims, so we'll see if they can translate that on the stage. Obviously, Giant X. Again, not too many changes. Jackies and Ignar have come in. Ignar has been a bit all over the place, but we know his potential of bringing a team up and offering some interesting picks. But this isn't necessarily a support that's going to stand out in general. Jackies, again, it's a bit of an unknown factor yet. Will be another rookie coming in. People have spoken highly about him, so it'll be interesting. Cass and Hidden will still be part of the coaching duo, which I think is still a very interesting duo here. Very smart bunch for the coaching staff. So we'll see how it works out. Very hard to evaluate. Obviously, you still have anchor players like Odoamne and Patrick who can still turn in on a good day. Rogue obviously has made their return. Formerly Koi, formerly Rogue, have kept Shigenda and Larson Comp. Instead, have brought in Marcoon and Zoelis. Now, Marcoon has been very good for the SK Gaming, in my opinion, and Zoelis has been the up-and-coming support that everyone has been talking about. So we haven't heard or seen much of them or during the in-houses, so I'm not too sure what they're worth, but they've definitely brought in some strong players, and it's all up. It's now is to see is how well they fit together. Also, N-Rated has joined Rogue. N-Rated, for those who are not aware, who maybe followed Fnatic recently, was a former player of Fnatic back in its early days. Always touted as a smart player, so has been coaching a few different teams since, and has joined Rogue in that capacity. SK Gaming, I think, has a really interesting bunch of players now. They've kept Irrelevant, who, in my opinion, was one of the better top laners last year, and very strong laner overall. Exekick and DOS, who had a strong start to the season last year when they came around, and sort of lost some of their, I don't know, strength as the season went on. They weren't as dominant in the later stages, unfortunately. However, they have brought in Isma. Now, Isma has been one of the players that people have spoken about in what do you call it? In the ARL, in the academy for EMEA. Usually, when a rookie comes on his own, it's a bit 50-50. You'll either have a Yike who really bursts into the scene and feels very comfortable, around what is or was a good bunch of veterans when he was on G2. On SK, Exakick, DOS have been there for a year. Irrelevant has been there for a moment, and Niski is there as well. So he won't be with really rookies around him. He was as well on Movistar Riders with the group of Alvaro Supa from Mad Lions Koi. So part of that good bunch of players on their side. Bringing in Niski. Now, Niski, I think, is generally a decent overall player. He can lack maybe a bit of consistency. He had, in my opinion, fairly decent Worlds run for 2023. Now, I'm still surprised he ended up on a team like SK, but I still think if these players can play at their peak level, they can definitely contest for the upper part of the rankings for the LEC. Team BDS. Now, Team BDS, I don't know. I really don't know why you'd get rid of Crowny and replace him with someone like Ice, who's been decent but not really as standout as Noah was when he was on the same team, Z10. It's a massive gamble, especially when you consider that they haven't replaced anyone else but their bot lane, and they've kept Striker, who's been blundering Dras, especially in the later stages of the season and going into Worlds. BDS, I'm not feeling it. I'll say it. There's not much for me to add. Very questionable replacements. I don't think they can contest for anything going into next season. Now, Team Heretics, aka the revival of G2, has gone almost purely with old G2 players. Wow, what a slip here. Wunder, Jankos, Perked, Flacked, and Kaiser, with Peter Dunn still at the helm. It's interesting. I think it's an interesting team. There's a lot of potential. you are dealing with players who, you know, can still show up well, maybe aren't as consistent as they were a few years ago, but strong potential. And I think something else which I personally always value in a team is the synergy, the camaraderie that you can have. And when you bring back players who used to get along rather well and, you know, have a good laugh together, it often helps with performances afterwards. So we'll see that the sore thumb here is kind of Kaiser, which again has, I feel, dropped in terms of his performances in in the latest part of his career. So we'll see if, you know, with a different team, with different teammates, we see him come back to some of his high level that he had on Mad Lions. Last but not least, although I say that, they were very much last on the last split of last year. Team Vitality. Team Vitality has just cleaned up their roster. They've decided, hey, we're tired of going for a super team, so we're going for another super team. No, I'm kidding. It's not as much as a super team. There's very good players. I don't know if you could qualify them as much of a super team. From the previous roster is only left Photon, which I would agree was probably the only good player, or the only player who was still trying when Vitality was crumbling. Douglas, I mean, yeah, I guess Douglas, who was the replacement from Bo, they've kept him around. Have been replaced Vitio, Karzi, and Helisang. Now, Karzi Helisang, I think, is a great acquisition. A lot of people are sleeping on Karzi for some reason, saying that he blunders, that he's not a good performer. I completely disagree. I think he's definitely one of the best ADCs that the region has, and with a guy like Helisang, you know, he's able to accomplish quite a bit. Helisang, again, you know, he can do great stuff as well as he can completely throw games. Very high highs, very low lows, and it feels like this disparity has really increased as his career has gone on. Vitio now has joined Vitality. I have a very strong opinion on Vitio, where I feel like if he's not in a good mental space, he's not able to perform. And the problem for me is that Vitality is not the place for a player like Vitio, where historically Vitality has not been able to manage player conflicts or let's say problems within their organizations, and that has led them to not reach the performances that they were promised with the rosters they've brought in the past few seasons. So I feel like the moment some like Vitality doesn't win or doesn't achieve what they can achieve with that roster, VTO is going to be the first one affected, and then it's going to go down very quickly. So we'll see really how it pans out in the long run, but that's really how I feel things are gonna draw out. I think the vibes on Vitality with Karzi and Haley will be better than on Excel. I possibly. There's, you know, that's definitely a factor, but you know, there'll be positive in a general sense, but you know, if what happens when if they ever get 2, 3, 4 losses in a row? Is he mentally able to bounce back? Again, I agree. It depends on their management, but I've been told many times from people inside the scene that this is the main issue that Vitality is encountering, is their inner management and the fact that they have no actual process to manage what you would call like a crisis situation, when the morale is at an all-time low and you have to bring the people back up. So that's the issue. But yeah, that's just give us a quick idea of what's happening. Let's have a talk about our main guy, Juan, for the guys who've decided that this is his official name. There's been obviously a lot of information that's been shared on him because, like myself, I had never really heard of him or knew which team he was on when he was initially rumored to join Fnatic. The only thing I knew is that he was Korean and that he indeed was playing either in the LCK or the academy, the LCK academy. Now, having done a little bit of research, delved a bit more into who he is, what he's done, or what he's capable of, I've been, I would say, pleasantly surprised overall. So, for those who don't know, he was on DRX, both on the academy, so the DRX Challengers, and also on the main team, where that's the flexibility that LCK team is, that they're able to bring in some of their academy players onto the main team depending on games. So he already has that experience of being on the main stage as well. The most important thing is that he was considered amongst one of the best supports on that year back in 2022. So what's usually being put forward is his mechanics, his flexibility in terms of picks. One of the rarest, at least now in Europe, to play the ADC supports like the Ashe or the Caitlyn, which I think is a massive attribute to have when you come into the LEC. In terms of support players, we don't see or rarely see supports who are willing to play them, and when they play them at a high quality, at a high level. Jun is able to provide that. Now, he's had a more complicated season last year on Kwangdong Freaks, where unfortunately he was not necessarily surrounded by the best players. And if you look at some of the games, and I invite you to have a quick look if you're a Fnatic fan and you really want to know more about this player, a quick eye test will tell you that he definitely wasn't one of the reasons why this team was doing poorly. You'll see a lot of, especially bot lane plays, where his ADC and or his jungler, not being on the same wavelength and not following up properly, or having a little bit of mechanical blunders when you know that any LCK and even LCK Academy, you'll usually have high mechanical players. So, super interesting player to bring in. Definitely not expected, and especially when I think I'm not wrong in saying that a lot of eyes were especially on Zoelis when it was known that Trimby would not be continuing with Fnatic. Now, you can say a lot of things about Trimby not continuing with Fnatic, saying it's a big mistake by Fnatic. Definitely one of the best supports. Trimby is or was one of the best supports in the LEC. Now, does that mean that he can fit into any team? Not necessarily. And from the feedback that we've had from players and staff through interviews, there's been, first of all, apparently Noah, and again, I'm saying this from what's been reported, Noah, who's quite vocal on saying that he wasn't getting the appropriate level of synergy that he wanted from Trimby, and on the other side, the comms were quite messy and loud with Trimby. And for those who watch the voice comms, either those shared by the LEC or those by the content team at Fnatic, you will have heard that Trimby speaks a lot, but it's very loud. So his voice can kind of overwhelm the communication of other players. And even then, Razork had kind of come back into being one of the vocal players within Fnatic. So the fear that potentially people had that Trimby was that piece of the puzzle that allowed Razork to be less vocal and spend more time on his mechanics and his mid jungle synergy might have been true at the beginning when Trimby and Noah joined, but was adapted afterwards. And at the end of the day, Razork was considered, if not the best, at least one of the best junglers at the end of the season. So while it can seem at the beginning that Trimby's departure is a bit scary and intriguing, there's a lot of elements to be excited about. Jun coming in, and one of them being his in-house performances. Dagda mentioned on Euphoria this week that Jun was far from the problem. Yeah, exactly. Chronicle also added on the World's podcast when it was just announced late that it would be a good pickup, and that's all I need to know. Well, that's the thing, right? Is that I would say this is purely my point of view on that one, and watching. If you look at Fnatic, especially throughout the years, and even on other teams, actually, for that matter, usually you want to have Koreans per pair in a team, and I think it makes even more sense in the lane where they play together. In 2015, we had Huni and Reignover. In 2016, we had Gamsu with Spirit, and even though 2016 wasn't great, the mindset stays the same, that you want to have Koreans in pairs. Now, the reason back then was, back at the time, it was easier for them to sort of be part of the team and get themselves involved with the rest of the team. I feel like now there's been so many elements within the structures of organizations and the way teams onboard new players that it's maybe not so much as an important, well, not, I wouldn't say important factor, but a mandatory factor that if you get a Korean, you need to at least have 2 Korean players, so they don't get as homesick. You have a lot of European players who very easily welcome Korean players and are willing to help them feel integrated. So, and again, orgs they're doing as much as possible to feel them included, especially with English language lessons. There's this one English teacher who I feel is working for all the LEC orgs, because I see her a lot for different Korean players, or involved with different Korean players in the LEC. So I feel it's a bit better. But with that said, I still think it's great that we have both of them in. Jun's English seems to be quite decent, and if he improves at the same rate as Noah, where he's able to express himself better and better, not only inside the game but outside the game, which is just as important, I would say. I feel that's great. If Noah also feels much more comfortable with a player from his own country, that's even a bigger bonus. Now, with that said, let's have a look at what's been happening recently, especially the in-houses. I would say on the general side of things, and we'll talk about Fnatic on a broader term. I'm personally very, very, very satisfied with the involvement of our players in the in-houses, to actually see them be proactive with players from different teams, participate in this, stream much more. I feel like I've gone back to the older years of Fnatic where we were much more active on on streaming services, but also with the sort of inner LEC community. I don't know why I've had this impression that the past few years we were kind of separated of that, where we would see other players do these in-houses, do those sort of collaborative trainings, and Fnatic was kind of outside of all of this, wasn't really taking part. And there, we've just been blessed with streams, in-houses. Every member of our team has been involved, like even Humanoid. Like for me, that's been the biggest surprise, because Humanoid is, I wouldn't say he's a social, but he usually doesn't necessarily participate in all of it. And even him has been part of the in-houses. He's been streaming recently. Like, man, it's a breath of fresh air for this. And with the fact that we're entering the 20th anniversary of Fnatic, it really feels like there's something new, that we're really changing for the better going into this new year, and I'm here for it. I'm really welcoming this with arms wide open. And if there's a year to finally bloody lift a trophy, it has to be it. The elements are just gathered. And just to come back to my initial point, Jun has been outstanding in those in-houses. Like, I don't know if there's you might find YouTube channels that have taken clips, snippets, and replays of what Jun has been doing. He's been limit testing with Noah, but more importantly, both of them, when they've played together, and they play together quite a lot, they have been crushing lanes together. And the diversity of supports that that Jun has been playing also has been great to see, because he's been able to play them at a high level, and his roaming timings have been really impressive as well. So obviously there's always this element of translating online performances with on stage, but man, if this guy is able to do and reproduce what he's doing in the in-houses and probably in scrims with what's happening on stage, we are going to eat very, very well as Fnatic fans. Feels like most of the team is just vibing big time. Yeah, I mean, there's this factor of, first of all, we've only changed one player, and it feels like this player was accepted by the entire team. There's maybe there's the details, and I haven't found them, but from what I would understand is that I guess Noah suggested Jun, and everyone got the approved of that move. And now that they've had the time to play with him, socialize with him, he's already bantering in Spanish, and he's really been integrated very well into the team. And another element, and it's great that you've just pointed this out. But also part of the improvement, the general improvement of of Fnatic as an organization, is the fact that Razork and Humanoid have been re-signed for 3 years. Now that's been something that's been a massive issue for Fnatic in the past few years, of really, first of all, keeping as many players as possible in the team from one season to another, but actually extending contracts. And this is how already back then, way before Dardo, we lost Caps because he was a free agent. Reckless, who went for free again to G2, and bunch of other players as well that we lost or weren't able to keep on the roster. Now, I think that we're going in the right direction. Keeping a player like Razork, who not only has been a pillar for the team, has been constantly improving, but is really what you would call a Fnatic player now. I feel like we've lost, especially when Reckless left, and again this year, someone that represents, Fnatic. When you look at him, you're like, this guy's Fnatic. He might have played for other teams before, but man, when I look at this player, I think of Fnatic immediately. And being able to stamp this brand on a player like Razork especially, but also Humanoid, and all the arguments that are made against Humanoid of saying, he plays whenever he wants to play, and that's it. He's still a great player. He will still make players hug their turret. And, if it's, again, a question of he's only performing when he's in the right mindset, well, we've seen Summer Split where once Snow and Trimby came in, he was at a top level, and then as things sort of became a bit more complicated, he sort of doesn't play as well, but still is decent laner overall. And if he's willing to extend his contract, that's also a sign that things are going well for them internally, and the fact that it's also a signal for the future to tell players, hey, there the past Fnatic where it's such a bad structure and you shouldn't go there, it's terrible, your career will come to an end. It's to say, no, there's players, like very good players, sought after players, who not only are willing to extend their contract and stay an extra 3 years, but on top of that are willing to decrease their salary to be able to stay, which I think is, usually when players will extend their contract, they'll negotiate a higher salary. They're like, you want to keep me, then they'll make the market play. Now, I'm very conscious that there's been an esports winter at the same time, but keep in mind that there's still teams who are willing to spend a bit of money to get X and Y players. So for me, those are two great elements to look at. In general, Fnatic as an organization going in the right direction, making the right choices. The players and themselves definitely look more motivated than ever. They participate more into the community, and I'll use the same term as earlier. The camaraderie seems to be there as well, which, again, this is my point of view, but it seems that across all the teams who have had that, it seems to be such an important factor in terms of performance. So, while we might have lost Shaves and Hiva, we still have a good core with Nightshare and Gax. And so we also know that Fnatic is also looking to grow their staff, and there's been a job opportunity to join them as an analyst. So, while Fnatic obviously are looking to reduce some of their spending, they're not willing to affect their performances because of the decrease in spending. So, I want to say, continue to looking at things on the bright side. Fnatic are moving in the right direction. They've just signed Cadril as a content creator, which, that's absolutely massive, and that's a big W for Fnatic as well. It's bringing back big names. We obviously stopped our contract with Robalas, which was a big name in the French community, but on the other side, we've signed the biggest, I'd say, LEC content creator of the past year, Cadro. So those for I mean, those for me are signs that Fnatic is willing to invest in their League of Legends structure. So I'm looking at 2024 very positively, and I really hope that we get that Fnatic first of all gets rewarded, but we also get rewarded for this sort of new hope that we're getting into Fnatic, and that we sign this by lifting a trophy at the end of the day. That's what I'll say. So yeah, Humanoid will also be the first Fnatic mid laner since Expeke to yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. And who else than Expeke when you think about the Fnatic brand, right? And obviously he's done such amazing feats. The big one of the biggest ones being, winning the first edition of Worlds and having a legacy-defining backdoor, which then would create G2 in the long run because of Carlos's eternal hate for Fnatic. That's a story for another time. What I suggest is actually we move forward into the spicy moment, the moment you've been obviously all asking for, which is my opinion on the tier list on the LEC. And we'll just take them in the order and go as such. Starting with BDS. BDS, as I mentioned, I'm really not fond of the changes they've made. Don't understand why you're getting rid of Crane, which was probably your only consistent player, and you've kept the rest, where Adam hasn't really been impressive, even on some of his pocket picks. Shio has been decent, but not really consistent. Nuclear, I mean, to some point, but not so much in summer at Worlds. And I mean, I think Labrov is decent, but I think he can only be really good when he's surrounded by good players. And I don't think pairing Labrov with Ice is the way to really make the most of Labrov's capacity as a support. I don't know why they kept Shio. I mean, you could make an argument for Shio. Like, he was a good addition. He just sort of dropped towards the end of the year, but it's like, in different circumstances, is he able to perform better? For me, the bigger question is, why didn't you keep Crowny? And for that, I'm putting straight into D tier. I'd be very surprised if they do better than 9th. I'll be very honest with that. I'd be cool if they kept Crowny to try running back or get a big carry to pull down. I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like, how much do you think Adam is going to improve if he's not been taken out of his comfort zone in the last year? So, exactly. Moving forward, our favorite team, Fnatic. I've spoken very highly. I'll still err on the side of caution, not to overhype them, but it's been very hard to not be overhyped with everything that we've seen recently. It's like, I'm on that train, dude. It's like, I wanna be cautious. I wanna be like, let's wait for the first games, but it's like, oh man, I just want Fnatic to kick some ass straight away. So, a triple S tier. I mean, I do want to put them on S tier. Do I just go with the full bias, or fuck it? All right, fuck it. I'll put them S tier. The people have spoken. S tier. That's the thing. Like, yeah, I agree. They would be probably. For me, they would basically be in that sort of A plus S minus tier. It's like, do I play it cautiously or put him in like high A tier and be like, you know what? Actually, here's what I'll do. I put them on A tier, but I'll add the specification. It's like they're very, very high A tier, and putting them in A tier means that they still have a lot of space to improve and go into S tier. So for the winter split, A tier, hoping that their performance carries them into the S tier as we go into spring split. Is that fair? Do we shake hands on this? I'll go with that. That way I won't disappoint the Fnatic fans watching too much, and still rate them quite high. With that said, I think everyone would agree to put G2 onto S tier. They've kept their core 5. They were very dominant last season. Obviously, they lost against NRG, which as a Fnatic fan, that was the best moment of the year. I'm not gonna lie. I was there. I was like, I saw the result. I was like, there's no way that G2 fumbled so hard that not only they lost to NRG, they got demolished 2-0. Like, it didn't even feel close, and they didn't even make it into playoffs. Like, everyone was. I mean, the most delusional fans were like, oh, G2's potential is to go all the way to the finals. I was like, yeah, sure, dude. Seems that you haven't even watched anything that the LPL has done this season. But beyond that, I mean, even though I say this, in the end it was Weibo that made it into the finals. But nonetheless, that also is, I think, a testimony to the level of the LPL if Weibo can make it all the way to the finals. But anyways, G2 kind of crumbled. Now, people say, oh, they were feeling sick, blah, blah, blah. Beyond that, they weren't able to adapt to the Asian teams overall. And they should have won against NRG, nonetheless. Even if ever since NRG became NRG, they've definitely been on a very positive and strong wave, especially with the caliber of players, which I'm sorry, you can't say you have international level players on NRG. I just think they have a good structure and a good way of preparing and training. Is that due to their staff or their processes? Is SOAS, is he the special element, their lucky star? But nonetheless, they were still very dominant versus G2. So with all that said, I still think they deserve to be on S tier, but we'll see if they're still as dominant and consistent. Now, Giant X. Oh, okay. So this is a tier list that I've taken online. So this is not this is the Giant logo. It's not the Giant X logo. Giants who have who was it again? Giant X, so that's Excel. It's hard to evaluate, to be honest. I want to put them C tier for now. It's Odoamne and Patrick, and they kept Peach, which I'm not really sold on. They brought in Jackies, which I'm not very familiar with, and Ignar, which I mean he's a well-known support, but he's not outstanding. I feel like he can have his good moments, but overall I'm still questioning a lot about this roster. We'll have to see how they perform, but I feel like they've um, they've lost some of their strength on compared to last year. We'll see. I think they could have gone for better players, even within the pool of rookies coming in. But who knows? Maybe Jackies will be a revelation for them, and they'll make it into B tier. Team Heretics. Heretics is a bit of a complicated one. I want to say because of the names on there, I would put them on A tier, and because of their history of playing together, and the sort of the banter nature of those players as well. I feel like they will, you know, merge together very well. So they could be here, but at the same time, I feel like they could fall short and be onto B. So I would expect, I'll say that, I'll expect them at A, but I wouldn't be surprised if they drop in the B tier and they don't live to level. Because you have 4/5 of the former G2 team, and you have Kaiser. And it's like, you know, Flathead's a decent player. Kaiser, bit of a disappointment on Vitality, but he can be that very smart player who can find those angles to engage, and he's very vocal as well. So I don't know. Wunder has been exceptional even last year when he came back into Fnatic to help us out when Oscar had his injury, and I think Wunder, you know, is still able to perform at a high level. Perks was really disappointing. Jankos, I think, is an alien that he's probably one of the most consistent junglers that the league has ever seen. Like, this guy has been playing for as long as I can remember, and he's consistently, and whatever team, any players that's been around him, he's consistently been one of the top junglers. Even when he's not been performing at his best, he was still better than most. And for that reason, I think that if Jankos is back with the boys, I think we can see a very interesting 2024 Jankos. So for that, I'll probably tend to A. I really hope we see an interesting team. Like, I want to be excited for Team Heretics because they're bringing those players in, and I'd hate to be disappointed if they don't live up to there's some, you know, level of hype that I think can be easily generated around them. Team Heretics depends on if Perks. Yeah, that's what I mean. Is that I hope, like, Perks has, you know, usually been a player that likes to put his money where his mouth is. Unfortunately, that was not the case on Vitality. He was a shadow of his own self. Maybe if he's back, you know, it's a bit like Jankos. If he's back with the boys, is he gonna perform? And I hope we get that level of competitiveness for the league with a team like Heretics. Moving on, Carmine Corp. So Carmine Corp, it's hard to say. They have good elements, but they also have elements that feel like it basically feels like two pieces of a puzzle that are not really meant to be together. You know, there's two things. Actually, there's three things. First one, I understand they want to keep Cabo Shard and Sackett, who've been long-standing Carmine Corp players, and there's, you know, this sort of loyalty and legacy that I think on branding wise that Carmine Corp wanted to keep with them. The one thing I don't understand is the fact that Syncroft hasn't followed for the same reasons, and even more for being one of the outstanding players, in my opinion, on their last year in the LFL. The third element is that they're bringing Bo Upset and Targamas, and it's like, these 5 players really match together? Like, I'm not too sure. I'm really not too sure. I'm kind of confused on how these 5 players function together. And I I'm not one of those who say, "Oh, Bo was very disappointing and not to the level." He was playing for Vitality, and Vitality is a bit like TSM. It's like the talent suppression machine, where they've always brought in hype players, and once they've gone into this organization, they've been cut short of what it feels like they've been able to perform. Like, so I would tend more on the side that I think Bo is going to perform really well in Carmine Corp, but is that necessarily going to be the same for the other players? I feel like Upset is a good player on his own, but really goes to that +1 level when he's matched with the right support. And I don't I mean I could be proven wrong. But for having watched Upset with a plethora of combinations of support throughout his career, the only moment where people have said Upset's a good player, but holy shit, he is probably the best ADC this season, was when he was paired with Hylissang. And Hylissang's thing was that he would go to the limit. He improves the ADC he's with. Like, freaking hell, he improved Reckless to the point where Reckless sort of came out of this, player who wants to just play sure and safe and farm, to a more aggressive, where he was banging LPL bot lanes together when Hylissang was like, dude, let's go, let's kick some ass, and let's not be scared, we're actually better than them. So I'm not sure that Targamas is going to be able to have that same level of expression for Upset that Hylissang was able to. So there's also been echoes that Carmine Corp are doing well in scrims. Again, scrims are scrims. Stage is another beast. So we'll see. I think for now there'll be a decent B tier team, and they have a lot of space to improve and actually bring in something for their fans who are really expecting them on the turn here. Mad Lions. Now, I've seen a lot of people, not only not being hyped for Mad Lions, but really being down for Mad Lions, putting them on the D tier. I don't necessarily agree. I think there are multiple factors that can work well for Mad Lions. The obvious one is that they're for the great majority of them Spanish or played in the same team. But I felt like there will be this new fervor from Elioya to want to actually be successful, because he's pretty much the guy around this team has been built for, and there's definitely good elements on this team. Now, they're gonna coming in as rookies, a bit like BDS was last season, and SK as well. And so it'll be a question of, are they able to transition their performance from ERL onto there, or will they indeed be a complete fluke and be, very far from what expected at an LEC level? So I'll err on the side of caution. I'll put them C tier. I don't want to put them D tier. I don't think it's fair to put them in the D tier, especially on what I consider BDS have done with their roster. At least with Mad Lions, there's a logic to it, right? Beyond the fact that they're a Spanish organization, is that there's a pre-built-in synergy for the new players coming in, and those are players where there's like expectations on performing. So I will put them behind Giants, because I think Giants has that advantage of having more veterans on there and only one rookie coming in, so they'll have that appreciation about them. Rogue, Rogue is a bit the same situation. It's I feel they have good elements come in. I feel like Marcoon was really decent on SK. They brought in Zoelis, which is a good support. Will he match well with Comp? That is yet to be known, and we don't have too much information as we haven't really seen them take part in houses. So it's hard for me to evaluate. I want to put them in the B tier for now. Now, do I put them higher or below Carmine? I might give them a slight edge to Carmine, but I think those two teams are kind of equivalent to some aspect. I'll just give a slight edge because Rogue has Larson, and Larson is just continuously a top mid, whatever the level of Rogue is. So the Larson factor for me takes the slight edge in there. Rogue has more known qualities. K-Corp probably has a higher ceiling. Well, they have a higher ceiling, but I feel like Cabochard and Saken, especially Cabochard, I don't think he's at the level required for the LEC, especially with the more recent wave of top laners. Cabochard against Broken Blade or even Oscar, I think he might struggle a little bit. And Saken has been known to be in the LEC multiple times, and every time he then really stand out. Like, he wasn't bad, he wasn't great, and he's gonna come into a new LEC where there's gonna be Caps was already there when he played, but I'm not sure like Larson and Humanoid had already joined, or maybe they had. But yeah, he's going in to face some high level mid laners. So I mean, we'll see. Like, he's been decent on the LFL, but LEC is really a different beast. So it's Cabochard in EMEA Masters. It's what I call it's a big fish in a small pond. Like, this guy has played years and years and years and years at the top level. He's been at Worlds, and in LEC he was one year he was almost considered one of the, if not the best, one of the best top laners. So the thing is that when you stay for a long time in the tier below, well, then you adapt to the players at the tier below. You can still be better at than them, but you're not really adapted to what's happening on the upper tier and why those new top laners are in there. Like, even like a player against Irrelevant, who's a very, very strong laner, I'd be interesting to watch Cabochard there. Anyways, let's move on to the last two teams. We have SK and Vitality. So first, SK. I think SK is an interesting team. I think they've brought in some good elements. They've, I would say, overall reinforced their team. I would definitely say that Niski is a better commodity than Certus, and Isma is I don't know if it's necessarily an upgrade over Marcoon, but I feel at least it's not a downgrade. I feel like SK could have their place as an A tier, at least with the names there. It all depends on if Exokick and DOS show up. If Exokick and DOS show up, they'll be. If they show up, they'll be A tier. If they don't show up, they'll be like mid to bottom B tier. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll put them in A tier potentially. I feel they can reach top 4. You know, as much as people, you know, think about Niski, if he's good, if he's not good, I think he's a solid like pillar player that has potential to carry, but he's able to sort of adapt depending on what the team needs. And you know, he can seem like a very goofy or sometimes, you know, a bit silly, sometimes disrespectful person. I think as a player, he's able to bring much more to the team overall. So I'll give a cautious bottom A, but there's a potential that they don't live to expectations and they go bottom B tier. Vitality. Vitality. I don't know. They probably have one of the better bot lanes in the league. Vito, I just have a problem understanding the actual level of this player. Ever since he's left Misfits, he's not been there. He's not been there. I feel it's a bit like Adam. If he doesn't have his pocket play Akali, he's not at the expected level that people have been wanting him to be ever since he's joined the league. I mean, Photon can definitely be, you know, we're talking about some of the biggest top players to facing Cabochard. Photon, Cabochard, that's going to be an interesting one as well. Photon, I think, might probably be their best players again. Karzi, definitely one of the better ADCs in the league. For me, it's like Douglas. You know, he came in, replaced Bo last minute. He was alright, but I didn't feel like he was doing anything outstanding. It could be a B tier with a potential to go into like bottom A tier, but my problem is Vitality as a structure has always felt short of what's expected from them. So for me, they would be around like Carmine Corp as well. Do I put them above, below? You know what? I'll just put them slightly above, just because I rate Karzi very high. That's all. So that's what I will say. So this will be my ranking. So basically, what maybe I would expect to be the ranking of the regular split. So you'd have G2 as first, Fnatic second, Heretics third, SK fourth, Rogue fifth, Vitality sixth, Carmen Corp seventh, Giant X eighth, Mad Lions and BDS 9th and 10th respectively. Tell me if you agree or not. I'm very interested to have your opinions, especially if you're watching on YouTube right now. Leave a comment down below on what you would change and your arguments on why you would change some of the rankings on there. Cool. I think this almost does it for our beginning of the season. We just have to go some of the predictions as usual. We have the same predictions on there. I'll just speak very briefly about some of the games that will be exciting for me. I think obviously Fnatic KC, first game for KC, and obviously there's a bit of friction between the two communities, so it'll be a great way to welcome KC into the LEC. You know, I'm expecting Fnatic to win, especially hearing how well the team's been preparing and what they've been showcasing in houses. So yeah, you know, I realized as I finished my predictions and I looked into the votings that we're pretty much on the same wavelength. Usually that's what happens in the first, maybe second week. Already, I think on the second week we might have some discrepancies between both of our votes. On day 2, we have J2. So Casey is getting a warm welcome. They're facing the top 2 teams from the last season, Fnatic and G2. I think Fnatic Vitality would also be a good test here. Rogue versus Team Heretics, I think, will also be a game to look out for, because we're looking at, you know, A tier, B tier, and it'll give us a better idea of in which direction these teams are going potentially. Last day, Fnatic SK, I think is also I think SK has a lot of potential with the names there. I want to be excited for them as well. I want to see Irrelevant continue on his successful year and go a bit further than what he did last year. Apart from that, yeah, that's mainly the big games I'm looking forward to. I really want this Vitality to be good, but I have a bad feeling that they'll be low B at best. That's, I don't know if they'll necessarily be low B, but they do have indeed that history of not being up to the expectations that most of the community has had for them. So it really is disappointing on the long run to not have them be as good as expected, especially when you look at the names they've had. If I'm not mistaken, I would say for me the best year they had was when they had Yamato Cannon with Jizuke, Cabo, Attila, who was still named Mini Trupax back then. The support, whose name I've forgotten, and Gilius. It was the boys, it was like the lads playing together, and the sheer grit that these guys had allowed them to, through obviously the win of Fnatic over was it H2? No. Schalke. Upset was on there. Oh, in summer, they managed to help Vitality qualify, and Vitality was very, very close in going into playoffs for 2018. They beat the top Asian teams like RNG. So, but that's the thing, and it comes back to another argument I wanted to make about Carmine Corp, is that, I think Yamato is a decent coach, and the fact that he's been reunited with Shaves, probably also helps him in the way he likes to work, because he's testified before that he really, when he was on Fnatic, that he really enjoyed working with Shaves. However, for me, I always felt like Yamato was really improving teams when he was with a majority of rookies, in the sense that when he was part of Fnatic and Adam came in, he really helped Adam grow within the team, and you could really see it, to the point where he had the guts of, first of all, playing much less of his pocket picks, but on top of that, only bringing out the pocket pick in the last game against G2. So Adam was much more structured in his way of approaching the game when he was with Yamato. And for me, where you would see it was really, at least in Europe, was when he was coaching Vitality, that iteration with those guys, but also with Splice, when Splice was a team with a bunch of rookies, when they had Senkux, I believe Wunder, who was still called Wunderwear at the time. They had Kobe, and I believe he was the coach during that time of that iteration. Where was there also Mickey in there? I can't remember. Oh, yeah, I'm looking at the past players. And there was Trashy as well, who was on there, who's now renamed Cold, who coaches for Team Liquid, I believe. But yeah, when it was like a full Danish roster, and they were very good. They were like top 3. So I've just looked. I'm looking at the past players at Splice. I've just realized that Yamato Cannon's girlfriend, future wife, because I believe that he's proposed to her, Tifa, was part of Splice when he was coaching them. So this is where they met. That's very cute. Everything makes a sense now. That's just a little bit of a tidbit of information on there. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with this. But yeah, I think some interesting first games in week 1. Gonna wrap it up very quickly, guys. Thank you for following. Oh yes, quick announcement. I will do a giveaway to celebrate the return of the season and the 1,000 followers on Twitter. So I will give away a Fnatic jersey 2024, the anniversary jersey, and I'll go a step further. I'll make it customized. So I'll probably make the announcement this weekend. I'll give you guys probably a week to participate. I'll contact the winner to get his size and the name he wants on the jersey. So you'll get all the details on how to participate. So wishing you guys the best. Thank you again for your support throughout the years. It's been amazing. Let's aim for even higher. Let's go for 2,000, 3,000 followers. Who knows? Sky's the limit. Don't forget to follow all the social media, the Twitters, the YouTubes, the Spotify. If you're watching on Twitter, drop a follow so you know every time I'm going live. I might stream a bit more. I might stream some of my games so you also get to see how bad of a player, on top of my shit takes. You just get the full Mad Scott experience. And yeah, have a good weekend. Let's hope the best for this new Fnatic roster. And as usual, thank you for following, watching, and always Fnatic. Have a good weekend, guys. Bye bye.